I understand your frustration. The concrete is yet to dry, son.
Don't sun me! I thought I asked you to leave, old man. You are too slow.
The screen opens on motion. Not chaos, but a rhythm as old as time itself. The camera lingers on a pair of calloused, dark-skinned hands. Hands that look like they were carved from the very earth they build upon. These are the hands of Arthur Jenkins, 62 years old, and a master of a craft the world has begun to forget. To the untrained eye, he is just a man in dusty overalls. To those who know the skyline of this city, he is the silent foundation upon which it stands. In a world obsessed with the loudest voices, some stories try to stay invisible. But the strongest foundations are rarely built in the spotlight. They are built in the dark, in the heat, and in the quiet persistence of a man who knows that a single crack in the base can bring down the tallest spire. We shift to a montage of Arthur's youth in the late 70s. We see a teenage Arthur, his face smudged with soot, fixing his own boots with duct tape because a new pair meant his mother wouldn't eat that week. We see her hands, just as calloused as his would become, handing him a sandwich wrapped in a wrinkled newspaper. He sweeps floors after school, the rhythmic swish-swish of the broom a metronome for his dreams. He studies under a flickering street lamp, working 3 odd jobs, dreaming of a world beyond the 4 blocks of his neighborhood. He remembers being told to use the service entrance of the very buildings he helped to clean. He remembers the cold stares and the way people clutched their bags tighter when he entered an elevator. But instead of bitterness, Arthur chose bricks. Every insult hurled at him in his youth became a stone in the empire he was quietly building. He swore that if he ever made it out, he'd build a ladder for the rest of his community. And for 40 years, he did exactly that, funding schools, community centers, and programs under the Jenkins Group name, all while continuing to wear his dusty overalls. He didn't want the fame, he wanted the work. The rhythm is suddenly shattered by the aggressive screech of high-performance tires. Julian Thorne, 28, steps out of a $200,000 Italian sports car, the engine still ticking with heat. He is the self-proclaimed architect of the future, a man who inherited his father's multi-million-dollar company and, in his own mind, inherited his father's genius along with the bank account. To the cameras and the socialites, Julian is charming and confident. To those who work under him, he is a quietly ruthless bully who views human beings as line items on a spreadsheet. His eyes flicker over the construction site, not looking for progress, but calculating for weakness, measuring for someone to blame for the inevitable delays of a complex build. Julian strides onto the site, his polished shoes looking absurd against the raw dirt. He stops in front of Arthur, who is meticulously checking a concrete pour, his seasoned eyes detecting a pocket of air that could compromise the entire southern wing. "Is this old man still here?" Julian asks his assistant, his voice loud enough to carry, though he never once looks Arthur in the eye. "I told you to clear out the heritage workers. They're slow, they're sentimental. They belong in a museum or a history book, not on a Thorne project where every second is $1,000. Arthur stands slowly, his 62-year-old knees creaking like the settling of a house. He wipes his hands on a rag, his gaze steady. "Concrete doesn't care about your timeline or your bank account, son. If the moisture isn't right, the integrity fails. You can't rush physics." Julian steps closer, his expensive cologne clashing with the scent of wet cement. His voice drops to a venomous whisper. "Don't sun me. Where you come from, maybe people build out of mud and hope. Maybe you're used to things that crumble. But here, we build with precision. You're a relic, Arthur. A shadow from a past we're trying to pave over with something better. Go find a park bench and leave the real work to visionaries who understand the cost of a minute." As he turns to leave with a flourish, Julian's polished shoe catches the corner of Arthur's metal lunchbox. It flips, the lid popping open, spilling Arthur's modest meal, the same kind of simple meal his mother used to make, into the gray dirt. Julian looks down at the mess, then at a faint, almost invisible dust streak on his designer shoe. "Look at this," he sneers, his face contorting with a localized rage. "My shoes cost more than your car, more than your entire year's salary, and now they're tarnished by your very existence." He smirks, seeing the younger workers watching. He wants to break Arthur. Since you're so fond of dirt, get down there, clean it. Show me that noble work ethic your people are always bragging about. Earn your keep for once. The camera zooms in on Arthur. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't shout. He looks at Julian with a profound, quiet pity. Slowly, deliberately, he kneels, a 62-year-old pillar of the community, performing a task for a boy who hasn't earned his place in the world. As he wipes the shoe, Arthur isn't thinking about the insult. He is thinking about the foundation. He knows that pride is a hollow structure, and Julian is about to learn just how quickly it can collapse. Like if your blood is boiling. Comment, justice, if you know Julian is about to hit a wall. Before leaving, Julian tries to assert total control over the crew. Listen up. This old man is fired, effective immediately. And if any of you have a problem with that, if any of you think he's being treated unfairly, you can follow him out the gate right now. There are 100 men at the gates who would kill for your spots. He expects rebellion. He expects groveling. He expects them to beg for their jobs. But the workers, men Arthur has mentored for decades, men whose children go to schools Arthur built, simply stand still. They don't look at Julian. They look at Arthur. A silence stretches over the site, heavy and suffocating. It is the silence before a storm. Did you hear me? Julian screams, his voice cracking with the first hint of insecurity. He's done. Clear your locker, old man. Arthur nods to his men, a small, subtle signal. It's all right, boys. I've seen enough for today. The foundation is set. He walks off, his back as straight as a steel beam, leaving a trembling, red-faced Julian behind. Days later, the Thorne Group boardroom, glass walls, high-back leather chairs. Julian is in his element, presenting his vision with practiced charm to a panel of city officials and institutional investors. He hides his arrogance behind a polished corporate smile, projecting slides of a luxury hotel that he believes will be his legacy. We've optimized every cent, eliminated every human inefficiency. This project will redefine luxury in the city, Julian says smoothly. We are ahead of schedule and under budget. We just need one final sign-off, the city representative says, looking at his watch. From the primary investor and the owner of the land deed, Mr. Arthur Jenkins. Julian laughs lightly, a sound of pure dismissiveness. Ah, yes, Mr. Jenkins. I've handled him. He's an old-school fellow, probably lost in his garden or struggling with his email right now. He'll sign anything I put in front of him once he sees the profit margins. He's just a silent partner. The heavy mahogany doors swing open. Arthur enters. No overalls this time, but he isn't in a $3,000 suit either. He wears a clean, simple shirt and dark trousers. Quiet authority radiates from him like heat from a furnace. Every board member in the room, men Julian has spent months trying to impress, rises in unison. Julian pales. The air leaves his lungs. You called me a shadow, Julian, Arthur says, his voice low, steady, a rumble that seems to vibrate the very glass of the building. But you forgot one thing about physics. A shadow only exists because of a massive light. You've been standing in mine for months, and you didn't even have the vision to know it. Arthur places a single, crisp sheet of paper on the table. It isn't a signature. It's a foreclosure notice. I've reviewed your so-called optimizations. You cut safety protocols to save pennies. You mocked the laborers who are the heartbeat of this city, and you built your entire vision on the sand of your own ego. Effective immediately, all Jenkins Group funding is withdrawn. Our partnership is over. Julian fumbles for words, his voice high and thin. Wait, Mr. Jenkins, Arthur. I can fix this. It was a misunderstanding. I'll apologize. I'll give you a bigger stake. Arthur's voice remains calm, measured, and cold as stone. Apologies are earned, not demanded. Foundations, Julian, real foundations, are built with care, patience, and respect. Your work, your vision, lacked all three. You thought I was a relic, but a relic is something that survives while everything else turns to dust. He gestures to the glass wall. Outside, 30 stories below, a heavy-duty tow truck is lifting Julian's Italian sports car onto its bed. That car? It was leased through a fleet company I own. Your office building? The deed was transferred to my foundation this morning for back taxes you optimized away. You're not just fired, Julian. You're evicted from this project, from this building, and from the city's elite. You wanted a museum? You're looking at it. It's called a life's work. Julian reaches for his phone, then freezes. He realizes his service has been cut. His credit cards are being declined in real time. The board members, sensing the shift in power, physically turn their chairs away from him. Julian's charm, which once dazzled them, has collapsed into the dirt. A week later. The headlines have faded, but the reality has set in. Julian, now dressed in thrift store clothes that itch against his skin, walks into a bustling community center in the heart of the South Side. The sign above the door reads, "The Jenkins Center." The young man at the desk, a man Arthur once mentored after he was nearly expelled from school, looks Julian over. There is no malice in his eyes, only a steady, knowing look. "I hear you're looking for work, Julian," the young man says. Julian, his eyes downcast, his shoulders slumped, nods slowly. I have nothing left. No one will take my calls." The young man reaches under the desk and hands Julian a mop and a bucket. "In this building, we don't care about your vision. We don't care about your brand. We care about the floor. We care about keeping the foundation clean for the next generation. Start there, in the back hallway. Maybe, if you work hard enough, you'll learn to build something that actually lasts." Outside, across the street, Arthur watches from his old, battered truck. He isn't smiling with triumph. He is watching with hope. He knows that the hardest work, the work of swallowing one's pride, is always the most necessary. Like if you still respect Arthur's calm strength. Comment with your first impression of Julian. Arthur Jenkins proved that true power is built quietly in the hours before dawn and the years of consistency. It is revealed not through the things we own, but through the compassion we show to those who have nothing. The strongest foundations aren't made of concrete and steel, they're made of character. And the quietest hands, the ones covered in the dust of honest labor, are often the ones holding the whole world together. From the other side of silence, toss stories, where real voices rise and truth finds its echo. Like, subscribe, share, stay with us. Because sometimes the most powerful architects never announce themselves.